Good morning. Welcome to the October 31st special Halloween edition of Advisory Live. We're powered by Nasdaq IR Insight, and I'm your host, Will Briganti. And joining me from Nasdaq Advisory Services is technology, media, and telecom analyst Jack Menke. Jack, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, glad to be back on.
It's great to have you back on. Happy Halloween.
Yeah, same to you.
So not only is our show powered by Nasdaq IR Insight, we're also powered by various chocolate Halloween candy.
This used to be a lot bigger.
It did used to be a lot bigger, yeah. You haven't seen the crumbs and all the wrappers on the ground. So, well, happy Halloween, Jack. It's good to have you back. Obviously, we're here today. We selected you for today's guest because we wanted to have more of a Halloween theme. Okay. So we'd like to talk about FANG.
Sure.
So we had Count Dracula pick the stocks today. So, but not only FANG, but obviously I want to hear more about the telecom sector as well. So let's kick off with some key industry highlights. What have you been seeing recently?
Right, so there's obviously been a lot of news. We're obviously in the midst of earnings season.
Yeah.
Media names are probably going to be pushed off a little bit just because they're going to be reporting towards the middle of this week and the end of this week. So that's kind of, all that pent-up energy is kind of being reserved for the end of the week. But, the last time I was on here, we were talking about telecom stocks, and we were actually specifically referencing the Sprint T-Mobile merger.
Yes.
and how it was in advanced talks at that stage, but now, when we thought that all of this was going to go through, now SoftBank, kind of pulls the rug out from underneath.
Yes.
And it looks like, they're talking about governance issues and
Yeah.
pricing issues. So, again, the situation is very fluid. We saw a huge spike down in a number of telecom names, so that clearly the volatility is just, or the story is just adding to the volatility. So it's very much another fluid situation.
Yeah.
So we're just going to have to see how this plays out. We were talking about it earlier, how things can change rapidly, so it's going to be a very interesting next few days and the next couple of weeks.
All right, Jack, thank you so much for that insight. And what about FANG? So I know some of the major technology companies have reported as of last week. Mm-hmm. We saw some pretty impressive results. So drill into that for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, last week we kind of saw a kickoff with Netflix. Obviously, had great earnings. They hit over $200 a share, all-time highs. And actually, a couple of weeks before that, we had another huge company in Adobe. They reiterated their guidance, and the stock was up 15% after their conference in Vegas. And like you said, on Thursday we had Amazon, we had Alphabet, we had Intel, we had all these names kind of have just blowout quarters, and it's just a really pretty big freight train when you think about it. And considering we're talking about on Halloween, really the only people that should be scared are short sellers. A lot of these guys, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these guys get blown out thinking there might be some pullback in the tech sector, but just after this latest round of earnings, it's just really clear that this is where the growth sector is, and this is where a lot of companies are just exhibiting those type of results, especially with earnings. So. Yeah,
and so I know Netflix doesn't give certain stats per show, but they certainly had a lot of media buzz going into the Halloween holiday. With the launch of Stranger Things 2, which I'm a huge fan of. I'm not sure if you are as well.
I need to get on that.
You definitely need to get on that. If you're a fan of 1980s sort of throwback horror sci-fi, I highly recommend this. It's excellent. So final question for you is what investors and investor relations professionals who are in the TMT sector, what should they be looking at in the near term?
Well, we still have a number of names that still need to be reporting over the next few days. So, we have Facebook and Cognizant and Apple later in the week. So we definitely have a lot more names to kind of go through to see, how the sector is going to shake out. I think what I would look at is, which is what a lot of analysts I think are pointing to with companies that have reported already, is that are we going to see some type of mean reversion? Because tech has just been on a tear over the last year. Is there going to be a pullback? Is there going to be any reason for some investors to kind of maybe rotate money out of the tech sector and into some more beaten up names? And obviously, just with these blowout earnings, it's just really not, you really don't want to kind of get in the way of how that outperformance is. But what I would look for over the next couple of weeks is to see, when we see some of these kind of mid-cap and small-cap and micro-cap companies report, is that growth going to be filtered down from the top to the bottom?
Right.
Because if that...
is it across the entire landscape?
So if that kind of growth is going to kind of span that from the top to the bottom, then we know that this pie is just really going to just enlarge.
It will continue to
and
drive,
there's going to be just more to go around.
Right.
And the only thing I would add is, let's say we are having small cap companies maybe underperform, or maybe not, issue lower guidance or whatever. Maybe that could spur some M&A activity.
Right.
Because obviously, analysts and investors are going to want to see growth from some of these large cap companies. So maybe that kind of diversion in valuations might spur some M&A activity, like we saw in the spring of 2016. So, but for right now, earnings are just superb across the sector, and we're going to have to wait and see how those things shake out.
Jack, thank you so much for your terrific insight as always. We appreciate you being on today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Will.
And happy Halloween.
Same to you.
All right. Thank you so much. It's candy time.
Yeah.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Jack Menke, Nasdaq's technology, media, and telecom analyst at Nasdaq Advisory Services. Thank you so much for tuning in to a special Halloween, October 31st edition of Advisory Live. We'll be back to you live on Thursday with a look at the jobs report. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you on Thursday.
Happy Halloween.